So I was thinking about the difference between being safe and being saved, and how I would like to feel safe, but how feeling saved is not such a good thing. Now, we think of feeling saved in the religious context, and so a lot of atheists will automatically agree, oh yeah, I don't want to feel saved because that's what it means to them, a religious thing. But it really is broader than that historically, I believe. Historically, to feel saved is like your life is so profoundly saved that it's now a defining characteristic. Maybe your whole family was saved, maybe by a huge act of kindness, or often some sort of Stockholmian syndrome. They killed the rest of your family and saved you. Now you're a slave. You're slaved. But we also use the word saved like in the near term, short term, like if somebody, I was drowning and, Jen saved me. And that's a good sense of the term, but I prefer, safe. And I think safe is related a little bit to saving yourself. I think you're safe when you've saved yourself. Okay? Now, my channel, that video showed me, my channel is going to have its 6-year anniversary on August 2nd, I think it is, 2012. And that's coinciding with a change, a big change. You see, I've had a lot of these periods. Prior to YouTube, I did political blogging for about 5 years or whatever it was. Prior to that, I was arguing about the Microsoft court case every day. You think this is esoteric law. You guys just don't understand or enjoy law. It's fine. When you have a reason, because so many times, I think I get a bigger picture, and the people I'm arguing with just say, well, I don't have to look at the bigger, I don't have to look at that part of the picture if I don't want to. I feel like not looking at it. And in a court case, it's like, well, you can't not look at the physics of bullet trajectories, but I don't believe in that. Okay, well, doesn't matter. There's some rules, and it's nice for someone like me, even though there's other parts that are a pain in the ass, like stupid legal rules that don't make sense. And people that don't understand philosophy of law and the difference between the right and wrong of the situation and what happens in the court case. The main advantage of following the court case, in my experience, is not that the court ever gets the thing right. It's usually frustrating as hell what the court does. But even an incompetent court, all but the most intentionally corrupt court that is just hiding information from you, which in America usually they're not that bad, and there's evidence of discovery, and it becomes obvious. And even things like police corruption and things that do corrupt the evidence enough that it's fatal, it can make it impossible to figure out what happened. Even that can often become evident. Of course, I'm not saying the court will agree those things happened. That could be the frustrating part. So, this last 6 years, when I came to YouTube, I was going to start doing my political vlogging. I had been political blogging for a long time. I started doing political podcasts. I helped a bunch of other people and did technical stuff and my own interviews. All my podcasts were interviews. I didn't do the vlogging thing where, I say just what I think, and then it's in comments. It was always live and conversational. I like to keep the record clean, so I generally only cut out pauses or parts that the interviewee, because they were sometimes, real people, not vlogging world. I interviewed a lot of political bloggers, but we interviewed one of the attorneys, the Republican attorneys that Bush had fired. So, the neatest thing there was telling people, look, I'll go through and pause. If you pause, just pause well, so I can tell by looking at the audio waveform that there's a pause there. You can pause for 30 seconds and think, and people get better answers. And if you find they don't really pause that much after knowing they're allowed to. So that's a pretty different stage. I thought I'd do vlogging here, but I didn't want to call people, so it was different. Then I saw Red Light Rocket. I remember, and I realized, oh my God, some people are talking about actual philosophical issues, because for years I've gone from, you know, site to site or subject to subject, doing usually multiple subjects, but often there's a prime subject I'm focusing my attention on, you know, to the point of reading hundreds of pages of boring court documents or something like this. And it's all just an excuse to do philosophy, where I can apply philosophy, and I was like, oh, I can just talk about philosophy, great. And so I decided I would describe my foundational system, which I have done, and I will consider that having been done by August 2nd, and it is what it is. You can think the point is for me to change my view on will or epistemology or any of these things I've been talking about, but I'll tell you what I'm changing on, and it should be clear which parts are pretty foundational, because the things I've been talking about the last 6 years are things I figured out by the time I was 23. So why didn't you figure them out? Why didn't you figure them out? I didn't say this was the subject to think of. I'm already figured it out. I just want to put it down, what I think and why. It's not my problem you're still thinking about these things. I figured these things out, you know, 20 years ago. You know? I'm just of average intelligence. Why did I figure it out? Oh no, Piero, you're not of average intelligence. You're super smart. Okay, well then why won't you listen to me now about what I figured out the 20 years since then? And as I've said, this medium is not about pleasing. I've given up larger audiences than this. Well, have I? Literally? I think so. But regardless of whether I literally did or not, they seemed larger. You know, the internet world was smaller. I've been involved where these things become going concerns, and people that are doing something for a hobby found out that they could, you know, they were going to make some money and stuff. I've been through a lot of permutations of this kind of thing. It's one reason I need to make a server to provide this the way I think, with all of that experience in there, going back to when I was 13 and started arguing things this way. But the subjects change, you know, you don't know. Maybe I'll go back to political blogging, and every one of my vlogs will be political. You never know. But I don't know, why would I go back and do something I've already done? I've already made my assessment on the current state of the political psyche, and I'm keeping in touch with it. I keep in touch with the blogs, with the other political media that have arisen. And so why would I go in depth on that again, unless there's nothing else more important that I have, you know, to look into before I start doubling up on things. You know, I think 5 years of dedicated analysis. Of course, the political thing's different, because I've always been political, but I mean, there was one period of online politics. When that was over, I started working in local politics finally, and that's been the most rewarding thing. You know, maybe in another 6 years, I'll be talking about local politics, but you guys are so far away from realizing how it's pitiful how little you pay attention to your local politics. You have no idea, I guess, how important it is, how much money is involved at that level. And that's where the pork goes back to, if you're so worried about this kind of thing, but whatever. I can tell you one thing I'm going to start doing right now. I'm going to start a series that's about the magical view of the world. I'm going to start a fictional series of worldview-ish things, meant to be fiction. And I'm also going to talk about my own personal way of interacting with my own mind, the way I think my mind works. Like, I'll give you a little preview. Now, as I've told you, and as I've believed for at least 20 years, I'm in a little holodeck of my mind. And to whatever degree it represents the real world, that's because the computer, my mind that creates it, uses data from the real world and pieces together a holodeck representation that on purpose matches the body, because that's the point, is to survive in this real world. We know from our dream phenomena and whatnot that we also have the dream world. That's just a necessary byproduct of having a model, is that you can put virtual objects in the model. They don't have to be justifiably real. So to me, the mind feels like it's made up of millions and billions and trillions of little pixels. Like a little pixel, only it's more like a voxel because it can move in three-dimensional space. And maybe it's even a four-dimensional voxel because it's like as if it can move in four-dimensional space. It can be picturing the past. There can be time associated with that little pixel of light or smell or taste. Little tiny pixel of some human feeling. And like if you look at an object, these little pixels, they're not fit in place. They kind of run over there and they pretend to be the thing that your mind thinks is out there, a little bit of it, right? So they don't just have color, they like have little tiny personalities. Just a little tiny elemental, like, you know, if a painting of the Mona Lisa has personality to it, but is famously bland, but whatever. You know, this is the personality of just one of the flecks of color in her smile at the tip of her mouth or whatever. It has whatever little tiny, it covers all the little feelingness of that little bit. And it tries to say, here I have a color, and it tries to say, hey, I have a sound. And these are the things that I think, technically speaking, are correlated. The ambulance just crossed in front of me right before it's turned. That these little pixels correlate all of the different kinds of sense input, from hunger to feeling sad to red to whatever, and these things cloud around. And if I see something like in a dim light situation, these things would be trying to go in there and go, hey, I'm a guy. No, I'm a stump. No, look, I'm a basketball hoop. Whatever they think that shape is, and they sort of I experience the reforming of them in a dim light, hard to see situation as my mind goes through this. Is that a person? That's what I'm thinking, the more conscious, more traditionally conscious level. Is that a person? Is that just a tree stump? And what I'm looking at is not solid, and I don't know what it is. It's these things moving around trying to match what I see. And if I really have to blink my eyes and go back to, well, what's the color say? What's the color? What I'm really doing is I'm just resetting these guys. I'm making them all, okay guys, scatter, okay, try again. And hopefully they'll have experienced the failures of their first attempt. And this time they'll figure out what it is for me. And only together, only with thousands of these little guys filling in that space, telling me, oh yeah, I'm a tree stump. So that's how I experience perception.